11 minutes past 6. Well, let's go to Texas. We just heard about it there, and we can speak to Mica Mosbacher, who is an advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign. Mica, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Well, I agree with your esteemed analyst in the sense that it's unprecedented. Due to COVID, we had 100 million in the United States vote early, either by postal or in-person early voting. But we also see that normally it's been the Democrats who vote early or vote by ballot, and that Republicans show up on election day. And yes, my state was just called. I expected it to be close just because we had such a tight senatorial race in 2018 during the midterms, and Beto O'Rourke from El Paso poured in an unprecedented amount of money in Texas. But if you remember, in 2016, the polls were wrong, and early in the evening, it looked like Hillary Clinton was in about the same position as Biden is now. And then much later in the evening, I believe it was almost 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Michigan was called for Trump, and he got to the magic number of 270. So we still see a victory, a path for him in North Carolina. We're waiting on that. Georgia's very close, but it looks like he has a solid lead. And if he flips Wisconsin again and Michigan, which was a big surprise in 2016, he is on to victory. Pennsylvania is a problem because in many states in the United States, you can't count ballots until the day before or the day of, the absentee ballots. And in Pennsylvania, as long as it's postmarked to today or yesterday, your time, on election day, they can count this for several days to come.
Yeah, so it could take till Friday potentially in Pennsylvania.
Yes, and Pennsylvania is 20 electoral votes, so it's a big prize too.
Given your confidence, I just wonder what you make of the tweet that the president put out a short time ago talking about people trying to steal the election. That's a tweet that's been moderated by Twitter. Yes. They've said that they put a warning on it because they don't like what he's saying. I mean, you're confident, but the president doesn't sound so confident if he's saying stuff like that.
Well, I think that we're cautiously optimistic. I don't want to get ahead of my skis. You know, there is some controversy regarding Arizona because some feel that it was too close to call, including Governor Ducey, who tweeted
that was called for Joe Biden.
Right, that they still are counting absentee ballots and that maybe it was premature to call it. However, if you leave Arizona aside, as I said, we can still look at Nevada, where casino workers, for example, are worried that they could be shut down again. And I want to go back to what your analyst just said. COVID isn't the problem. The number one issue in this country is economy. It's always been the economy. People are worried about paying their rent, their mortgage, feeding their families. Trump has reached out to Latinos. He's widened the base among Republicans to working class Latinos and blacks, for example. Many own small businesses who are worried about the collateral damage of the virus. And one thing that's not reported is that we are got 85% lower mortality rate in this country. So even though we're spiking, we know how to handle this virus.
Well,
so
I mean, a lot of people have died, obviously, and that's been one of the main issues. I just want to ask you, just finally, I mean, it looks as though this is going to be pretty close, whatever the end result is. If it's close in the president's favour, does he and do you accept that? Because he's been sowing a lot of seeds of dissent up until now, saying that if it's a close race in Joe Biden's favour, then the whole thing may have been rigged. If it's a close race in his favour, then does all of that talk stop?
Well, what's interesting is this. I do believe that the president believes in our democratic system, and if it's fair and square, he will definitely exit. I don't think we're facing that yet. But if there are irregularities with absentee voting, and I think both sides are worried about that because both sides now have teams of lawyers, many who are probably going into Pennsylvania as we speak. So I think it comes down to were there any irregularities in these counties and these battleground states that are close? And I hope we don't go through another Florida recount situation like we did in 2000.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. Look, let me thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us this morning. That is Mica Mosbacher, who is an advisor to Trump's 2020 campaign in Texas.